Hey, this is Moa Smokes, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Vyro One V2. Now, for those of you that follow me on Instagram, you've seen this thing for the past few weeks. I took it with me on my vacation. I was recently in Egypt to visit my family. I was there for a couple of weeks, and I realized I need a travel pipe. So, in looking around online, I was like, do I want to take my Shisha Bucks Micro? Might that be a little too big? My problem was I had limited space in my suitcase. For those of you that are foreign, you know that if you're going back home, you're taking everything you possibly can with you. And I'm not talking about your stuff. Again, if you're foreign, you know what I'm talking about. You're taking Pepto, Tums, Advil, everything for your aunts, uncles, cousins, you know, people that you've never met before in your life, whatever. So I'm very limited on space. Like, I want something compact. I had seen the Vyro One online. Obviously Vyro's been posting it, and then all of the European bloggers have been posting it for a while now. And it was a pipe that I decided this is what I want. Luckily, I found it online on sobihookah.com. Sobi Hookah is a shop that's in South Beach, Miami. And I've actually personally been there before, but I shop on their website quite often. Got lucky, found this on there. They had just gotten them in stock. And I purchased the carbon black one, which is perfect because that's exactly what I wanted. I got it in 2 or 3 days. Now keep in mind, I live 30 minutes south of Washington, DC, so the distance between here and Miami isn't that far, but nevertheless, the shipping was super fast. I got it, like I said, 2 or 3 days max. Set it up, tried it out a couple of times, and then packed it away, and I was like, yes, this is what I'm taking with me on my trip. Now, I do want to point out that when it ships, you just get this, and this is awesome. This is the packaging that it comes in, and there's foam on the inside. It doesn't move around if you shake it, and it's perfect to just throw in your suitcase or a backpack as is. It works as a travel case because this doesn't come with a travel case, but I use the packaging everywhere I went. I want to point out that this is all you get though. You don't get a hose, you don't get a hose handle, you don't get anything else that you might get. Like, you really just get this. You'll have to provide your own hose and your own hose handle. I ended up taking these with me on the trip. This is a Mason Shisha Ware silicone hose that I had, and this is the handle to my Shisha Bucks stick, so they came in really handy. I also took with me a Mason Eclipse tip. I took a Provost 2, and I took a Mason Shisha Ware gravel bowl. A couple of other things I want to point out before we bring the camera in closer and you get a closer look. This thing is built to be the perfect travel companion, and I can attest to that as someone that just took it on vacation with him. It was awesome. It was light enough to carry with me everywhere I needed to take it. It was quiet enough where I didn't disturb people. Like, this thing is quiet, and you'll see later on in the video when I'm actually smoking. It's stainless steel, so I have no question that it's gonna last a long time. There's a carbon fiber sleeve, which makes it to where it's not as heavy. It's well thought out in terms of its center of gravity. It's very bottom heavy, so I don't worry about pulling it. Without further ado, I'm gonna bring the camera in a little bit and give you a close-up, open up the box, show you what it looks like, disassemble it, reassemble it, and we'll go from there. All right, so now that you're actually zoomed in, I'm gonna open up the packaging. So this actually just slides right out. The bottom does, I mean. And I would recommend that you don't close it without the Vyro in it because it's gonna be really hard to get it out. All right, just put the lid aside. And then here you'll see a foam ring, and you're seeing 2 metal holes. And when you remove this, you see that the first one is actually for the hose. And then you have a piece of paper here that actually explains all of the components. And then on the back explains the manual valve system. Now this is a little crumpled up because I opened this and put it aside after I looked at the water level. It's incredibly helpful if you want to know what the components are. And I'll actually go through this once I disassemble the Vyro. So we'll put that over here. We'll put the foam ring over here, put the hose adapter down. I'll take the Vyro out of the bottom. To open this up, you're going to unscrew the bowl adapter. You're gonna leave the lid on. You really have to leave the lid on because if you take the lid off and try to do this, it won't work. So leave the lid on, grab the sleeve, and then grab the base, and then twist, and this will come right off. And then you can see the inside of the Vyro. I'll put the sleeve down, take the lid off, put the lid next to it, and then we'll actually go through what we're looking at. So the chart tells us that number 1 is the bowl adapter, which is this, and it has a grommet on it, and the grommet comes with it, so that's nice. Number 2 is the cover, so that's this right here. This is the cover. Number 3 is the tube, and they're actually referring to the sleeve as the tube. And these are actually interchangeable, so if you find a color that you like, you can actually just buy an additional sleeve instead of buying an additional Vyro, which is really nice. Number 4 is the hose port, And this is actually where I'm gonna talk about my first con. The hose port actually has 2 O-rings, and right now you're only seeing 1 O-ring. And that's because in putting the hose port in and taking it out of the base of the Vyro, over time, and when I say over time, over the past 3 weeks of daily use, one of them actually ripped just from regular wear and tear. I wasn't crazy about that. I kind of wish they had made this magnetized to where it just kind of goes in there and stays in there until you're ready to take it out. But nonetheless, I have extra O-rings, so not a big deal, but it is something that will be a grievance to people, so pointing that out now. And then number 5 is the actual base. So that's this piece right here. Number 6 is the smoke tube, and that's this. This is the part that's connected to the hose port, or I guess leads to the hose port. I'll just unscrew that. Number 7 is the downstem, and the downstem actually has a built-in diffuser. And actually, while I have the downstem in my hand, let's talk about the water level real quick. The water level on the piece of paper has it about 1 millimeter above the top hole. Where I have it is actually right here, where it's literally on top of the top hole. That's where the water level should be. For me, any more, and I was getting water in the hose, and any less and it wasn't smoking right. So again, personally, I have it right above the topmost hole. It's almost where it's touching it. They have it right here. Not a big difference, but you'll feel it if you're smoking it. So pointing that out. Number 8 is the valve system, and that's this piece right here. The valve system is where the purge ball is as well. You can actually unscrew the top of this, and you can see the purge ball. And the purge ball is not metal, so it's quiet. Put that back in, cover it up. Number 10 on the piece of paper is actually just the water level, which we talked about. And then number 11 is the sleeve thread. And they're literally talking about this right here. Now, here is where the smoke comes out when you purge. And again, here is where the hose tube goes. Now, I brought a scale because I do want to point out something really interesting. Talked a little bit earlier about how this thing is right under 3 pounds. Right now it's set to pounds. This is the base. The base alone is almost 2 pounds. When you add the top to that, you get a little over 2 pounds, and then the rest of the weight comes from the rest of the components, obviously. But I just thought it was interesting that the majority of the weight is in the base, and that's how they get it to be so stable, so bottom heavy. Let's talk about other cons that I've had. You've noticed that this is the size of a soda can, or at least roughly the shape of a soda can. No, you can't put this in your car's cup holder unless your cup holder is open at the bottom, because as you saw, the hose port's actually at the bottom of the shisha. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to get it for your car, it's not gonna work unless you have a cup holder that's open at the bottom. As you saw, it's just shy of 3 pounds, and I'll actually put this together now so you can see the whole thing. So here, screw in the downstem. Screw in the smoke tube. Screw the sleeve in. Put the top on, and it's really important to note that when you put the top on, you're gonna wanna push down until you hear a click. It's very important if you do, because if you don't do that, you're actually gonna have smoke escaping from the top of it as you're smoking. So that's the click. Then you're just gonna get the bowl adapter, screw that on. And here, just for good measure, I'm actually gonna put in the hose port too, and then let's weigh it. So this is without water, and as you can see, it's just shy of 3 pounds. It's a really nice size, like I said, for travel. Fits in your hand, fits in most people's hands, I should say. The packaging is nice. You can travel with it. There's the foam inside. You can see the foam there. You saw the foam ring that's on the top there, so that's great too. The components are all stainless steel, except for the sleeve. The sleeve is carbon fiber. That's really nice, and like I said, that's interchangeable. The weight is just shy of 3 pounds, so it's a great weight. In terms of price, expect to pay anywhere from $100 to $120 if you're buying this domestically. As I mentioned, I got mine from sobihookah.com. I know that 5starhookah.com is also selling them. So if anybody knows any other places that are selling them, feel free to drop that in the comments so that you can help other people out. Now, in terms of the cons, I do want to point out a couple now. As you can see, the top is scratched up and the bottom is scratched up. So I'm not crazy about that, about how easy it was to scratch, just because I'm someone that likes to keep my stuff pristine. And this really bothers me. So pointing that out for those of you that it will also really bother. The other thing that I pointed out already is the O-rings. So as I mentioned, I have a backup O-ring luckily, but for those of you that don't, plan to have O-rings because they will tear over time. All right, now I'm gonna pack a bowl and I'm actually gonna smoke, and I'll tell you a couple more cons, nothing too crazy, and then you'll see how this actually smokes. All right, so we're back. I have my bowl packed. I actually just packed some Overdose Heat Wave, which I've been a huge fan of Overdose. Again, if you're following me on Instagram, seen my stories, it's pretty awesome. I haven't tried Heat Wave yet, so I'm trying that for the first time. On my trip, I took 3 flavors of Trifecta with me. They were Peppermint Shake, TNT, and Twice the Ice. And those are the 3 flavors that I refer to as my Trifecta. I feel like those are my favorite 3 from Trifecta. I like to mix those around. If you haven't checked those out, check out my 2-Minute Smokes playlist up here. Click that link. I have reviews on every flavor that I just mentioned, so check that out. Let me know what you think. All right, so I mentioned that I was gonna bring up the cons here. The first con that I have, you'll actually see when I start smoking, but it's that the purge is very, 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 very sensitive. If you're somebody that's used to taking big pulls or hard pulls and then purging just as hard, it's not gonna work. You're gonna flood your bowl. And this is my warning to you. Please don't do that. It's not gonna be a great experience for you. The other thing I want to mention is a few people online have been talking about how their smoke is warm over time. Not right away, but like 30 minutes, 45 minutes into the session, their smoke starts to get a little bit warmer. I think that's expected. This shisha only uses 91 milliliters of water. 91 is the magic number. That's how you get it to the perfect level. At least in my experience, that's what I smoke it at. But it doesn't really use a lot of water, but you would expect the smoke to get warm over time. So like I said, that's expected, not a big deal. Next thing I want to point out is there is no tray on this. This is made to be portable. It's made to be small and compact and very easy to travel with. There's no tray. What I did as the solution is I bought this $10 coal holder off of 5starhookah.com, and it did the job really well while I was there. So I would put the top of my Provost in it. I would ash my coals in it. I'd put old coals in there and leave them there to kind of just die out on their own. No tray, you're gonna need to bring your own tray. The other thing I mentioned earlier, there's no travel bag, which is kind of a pain for some people I know. It didn't really bother me because I used the box that it came in and it worked really well for me. And then the last thing is the hose port. The hose connector itself has O-rings on it, and they are susceptible to ripping just from putting them in and taking them out repeatedly. Now what I'm gonna do is, I think I've given it enough time. This is probably warmed up. I'm gonna take my first pull so you can see how this thing smokes. All right, so I don't know if you could hear that, but essentially the diffuser is so quiet that it almost feels like you're hitting a vape. Like you're not really getting the noise, you're not getting the rumble that you're used to getting in a traditional shisha, definitely for sure. But it's even quieter than most diffusers that I've seen on modern shishas. All right, so again, I'm just gonna pull and let's see if it's built up enough heat to where I'm getting those massive clouds that this thing produces. Almost there. All right, so as that's warming up, just want to talk a little bit about my trip for those of you that had questions about it. I'm just going to share 2 quick stories while this warms up. First story, people were blown away by how awesome this thing was. They were like, how could that be a shisha? Again, keep in mind I was in Egypt, the home of Khalil Ma'moon, the home of Yahya, the home of the traditional shisha. I was walking around with this and people were like, that's not a shisha, this is a shisha. And it seemed like a scene from Crocodile Dundee. I mean, I can't blame them. Up until a few months ago, I had never seen this thing either. And I had never seen anything that looked like it that produced the smoke that it did. So I actually smoked with a family friend and he had his traditional shisha with him. And I had this, and you know, obviously the questions were there, like, what is it? How does it work? Like, how could that be a shisha? Like, it's not real, that's like a vape. I'm like, no, it's a real shisha. You put real coals on there, real tobacco in the bowl, you pack it, you smoke it. And when we started smoking, the clouds that he was getting were nowhere near the clouds that I was getting. Like I was filling up rooms with smoke. And you know, the smoke that, you know, traditional shishas produce is more like this. And the smoke that I was getting looked like this. The second story that I want to share while this heats up, because that's still not the amount of clouds that I'm used to getting. When I was leaving, when I was going through the airport, in the Egyptian airport, if any of you have ever been there, you've experienced this. You have to put your bags on an X-ray belt. your bags, not like your carry-on, like your actual suitcase. Your luggage has to go on this x-ray belt. So I put it on the x-ray belt. I had 2 bags with me. One was a large bag, one was a medium-sized bag, and this was in the medium-sized bag. I travel with my shishas all the time. I've never had anybody stop me. I've never had anybody question, what is this? What's in the bag or anything like that. So I put this on the x-ray machine and the police officer is like, hey, I need that bag over here. And whose bag is this? I'm like, oh, you know, it's mine. So I walk over there and he's like, it looks like there's a shisha right there. And he pointed to the corner where the shisha was in. I was like, and I just froze actually. It's like, how did you know that was a shisha? He was like, what do you mean? It's a shisha, I can see it. I was like, okay, cool. So I take it out of the bag and I'm holding it up and he's like, that's not the shisha. I was like, no, this is the shisha. This is what you saw on the x-ray machine. He was like, I mean, that's exactly where it was on the x-ray machine. I open up the box and I show it to him. And I actually end up unscrewing the sleeve and I show him the inside. And I'm like, you know, this is the down stem. This is where, you know, the diffuser is, the smoke tube, all of that stuff. And he's like, really? And at this point, he's not in police officer mode anymore. He's in I smoke and I have so many questions mode, which I totally respect. And I actually just pulled up next to him for a little bit and I explained it to him, gave him a mini version of this video right now. Obviously a lot more brief because I didn't want to miss my flight, but I explained it to him and he was like, that's awesome. Like, who makes it? Like, where can I get one? So I gave him some information. I was like, I don't know if they're gonna ship to Egypt. You can get it from Vyro and etc. The next question he asked had me on the floor almost because he goes, can I still get the and I froze for a second. I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about the sound of the water when you pull. And I was like, no, there's no sound at all. He's like, well, it's not gonna work for me. If it doesn't I can't smoke it. I was like, all right, yeah, I respect that. That's, you know, the traditional mindset. So I thought that was really funny. Anyway, I'm gonna smoke now, so you're gonna actually see the clouds. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the purge, because the purge is pretty cool. It's gonna come out from right here, so keep your eyes right here in the video where my hand is. And that's what the purge looks like. Like I said, blow out very gently to get the smoke out, because if you blow out any harder than that, you're gonna flood your bowl and you're gonna be miserable and you're gonna have to repack and it's gonna be a whole ordeal. I didn't do that personally, but I got really close a couple of times because I could hear it and I was like, no, let me stop, it's too much. So keep that in mind. Now, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what other videos you want to see. I have a lot of content planned coming up. I've bought a bunch of pipes. For those of you that follow me on Instagram at Moa Smokes, you know that, I just picked up a Hoop Go On, the black and gold, really nice. I picked up a Moa's Noir. I picked up a Moa's Breeze. I actually just purchased a B2 Reaper because it was on sale and I figured why not. I have the Shisha Bucks tank video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. That's actually just the preview and the unboxing. So I'll have a full review on that coming up soon. But like I said, if you want to see flavor reviews, if you want to see tutorials, drop that in the comments. I'm always watching those. I'm always responding to those. I want to know what you want to see. That being said, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the room as foggy as possible and fill it with clouds. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.